So this is the final part of the inner work series, and this is just an overview of how I found it really helpful to view this kind of self-actualization work. Because when I didn't have this, it felt like I was just kind of clutching at straws and I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go into. And this is the distinction between wake up, grow up, clean up, show up, and I promise you it's going to make more sense as I get into it. So I'm going to make a strong statement here. Without this framework, most likely you're going to be destined kind of always spinning your wheels when it comes to this kind of work. Okay, self-improvement, self-help, self-actualization, whatever you want to call it, because either you'll spin your wheels of endless healing or endless spiritual practices, or just you won't be able to get out of blind spots and avoidance cycles. That's because this is the framework that allows you to categorize your sticking points in what I found to be the most effective way possible. It's kind of like, imagine you're walking down the path and there's four separate paths, right? And they all claim like they're going in the direction that you want to be going in. And because you don't have a map, you don't actually know. You just have your intuition, your instincts. And sometimes those intuitions and those instincts can be correct. And they do get us to where we're going. But the same way that they can be right, they're also wrong. Now, there's nothing wrong about being wrong every once in a while. But if it's a fork in the road that you keep on coming across and you keep on just leaving it up to fate or a gut feeling or an intuition or what you've logically deduced will be the outcome without actually any real data, then this is something that is so easily avoidable. It's a sticking point that's so easily avoidable. And if we want to take this metaphor of this hero's journey metaphor to the next level, imagine your shadow, right, can also talk to you. It can lead you astray. It can encourage blind spots. It can say, oh no, we should actually go this way. It can affect your decision making, which is exactly what's going on in our day-to-day life. We have subconscious parts of ourselves, unconscious parts of ourselves that we don't know about, we don't talk to, and we don't really engage with, so they can very easily lead us astray, especially when it comes to internal work, because internal work is so often talked about in mysterious and shadowy ways. And whilst that has a place, it can hijack if we have issues around decision making or just issues in general, then it can hijack that more kind of mystical, shadowy language to just lead us into paths that we otherwise would have wanted to avoid. So when I was in Budapest living with my mentors, we had this distinction, but it still affected us. We would use meditation to get over certain therapeutic things because our meditation was a very feeling-based meditation. So we kind of thought, oh, it was just really integral, when it wasn't. Swim is a great meditation, but it's not another thing like another avenue or therapy. It can make you feel really good and it can help you develop a very loving relationship with yourself. But in terms of actually healing beliefs or storylines or integrating parts, it's not going to do that. So we would use meditation to just kind of get drunk on consciousness. If you never experienced that, it's kind of like using meditation to detach yourself from the world. So if there was something stressful, we would detach from the world. Or if there was something that really needed our attention that was hard for us to just tackle, we would detach from it. Okay. Rather than meeting that full head on with all the technologies and the amazingness that meditation can give us, like the Nevermind game, which is in the third part of this series, but still experiencing it fully, not running away from it. We wouldn't do that. And this had mixed results. I see that my past self literally wrote ha ha there. So he was definitely having a good time. What it meant in this period, whilst we had so much progress, our blind spots also increased. And when you're in a period where you're having a lot of progress and your blind spots are increasing, what that means is it means that your blind spots also increase in maturity. Okay. This is a big problem. Maybe some of you have experienced this actually, where you've gotten over a shadow or you're getting over a shadow or just an internal part of yourself which speaks so eloquently, is very mature, doesn't feel like a child, isn't a child actually, is very mature. And this is one of the most comprehensive and most refined ways of self-sabotage. When there's a part which is our maturity, or maybe even a little bit higher in some cases, if that's possible, it just means that we can never really get height on it because it's the same maturity level and it can kind of outmaneuver us, right? Obviously, we have to work with that in different ways. I work with it with both myself and my clients as well. Although when that's happening with myself, I usually just work with my mentor to help me kind of get over that. So our blind spots increase in this time period. And in the long run, it just made it so much harder to overcome it. rather than us just nipping it in the bud, right? Because of this, because we had this distinction, but we didn't really have this distinction. So please learn from my failures. An example for me was issues around money beliefs, right? I had a ton of money beliefs or bad money beliefs around like making money. Was it bad? Was it evil? Was I even able to? Like all of it, right? Whatever you can name, I probably had. Instead of actually addressing that, I thought that the meditation was something where I could just love myself out of it and transcend out of it. But because I never integrated that paradigm, these beliefs just came back to bite me. And it was only until the start of this year that I was able to see that and actually start working through them. Because that blind spot had become so mature that even when after I realized that I hadn't been implementing this framework of wake up, grow up, clean up, show up, effectively, because that blind spot had such sophisticated smoke and mirrors, I wasn't able to identify it until this year. I also, during this time in Budapest, got a bit of a spiritual ego and a bit of spiritual disassociation, as I touched upon, but I just thought that's important to say again, just so it's clear. Like, how that affects you is it actually makes you get less fulfillment and happiness and enjoyment in the world because you're detached from it. And then having an ego is, I'm very strongly of the belief that you can't have an ego or you can't be arrogant. And when I say have an ego, everyone has an ego. I mean, you can't be egocentric in a shadow way or arrogant and be confident at the same time. Those two things are mutually exclusive. So this whole time it developed this arrogance and lack of confidence in me, right? You could say. And also, it wasn't just a spiritual overemphasis that was the problem. There was a showing up overemphasis too, because I would just meditate a lot and I would go out and I would do a ton of work. I would go and be social a ton. I would take a ton of action. And it's just led to a very lopsided, unintegrated personality. And people just get a weird feeling around people like this. You can probably think of people right now in your life, maybe they're not like friends or they're co-workers or whatever, where you feel like they're very developed in some areas, but there's some areas where they're not just not mature, but they're very immature. And it's almost like being around somebody, like walking around eggshells around somebody. It's like quite an unpleasant experience. They're not an unpleasant person, it's just an unpleasant experience. So you don't want to be giving that effect to somebody, anybody in any situation, really, because you don't know what that person has to offer, right? You might really want that, you might really want to connect with that person in whatever way. So we want to make sure that is not happening. And it's a very humbling and sobering reality to look at. And it just becomes more humbling and more sobering the longer these blind spots grow, because you just have a more wealth of experience where you kind of acted out. You have a more attachment to that narrative because you have more, because time gives us the illusion that this thing is more attached to us. So it just makes it harder. So don't do that to yourself. So here are the distinctions, ladies and gentlemen. The distinctions are waking up, growing up, cleaning up, and showing up. And in more detail, what waking up is, as you probably guessed, is your spiritual practice. Is insights. This is any practice that gives you insights into how you create your own suffering. It's also insights into how you create your own liberation. Also, how you're creating reality or you're co-creating reality with the external world at the same time. This is duality, non-dual practices. Also integrating transcendental states, all that kind of good stuff. I think the best path for this is an integrated look at Buddhism, so Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. I'm not a Buddhist, I guess you would say. I kind of am, but I'm kind of not. I'm not here to spread my religious beliefs. It's not a religious belief either. It's just a spiritual practice. Whatever floats your boat, that's your waking up practice, okay? Cleaning up process, as you can tell, is a big cornerstone of this channel, okay? This is, I think, the foundational thing of all self-actualization and self-help. It's not just adopting behaviors, it's changing the way, the beliefs, your narratives, your identity, the way you view yourself. So you're not becoming a different person, you're actually unlocking who you truly are. You're removing the layers that you built up around yourself and actually just being your most authentic, powerful, compassionate state. And that's done through cleaning up, which is your healing practice, okay? Insecurity, constructs about the world, narratives, beliefs, parts, all of that kind of good stuff. I have my advanced shadow work playlist that you can go and check out. This playlist is also great for that too, although it's a bit more general. However, the real magnum opus is my 2.5 hour live stream that I did with my paid one-on-one clients. It was originally going to be a paid program. I made it for free. All it's going to cost you is your email. I'll send you a follow-up email to make sure you're getting the best customer service possible, because that takes you through how I look at everything from big picture to small picture, and then how you can actually run a session on yourself in the most effective way possible. Now, there is the growing up distinction, which is your developmental practice. This is learning about development, how psychology works, how at different stages you unlock different perspectives about yourself. Okay. And this is basically about leveling up how much perspectives you can hold at one time, how intricate and complex your view of the world is, but also it's about whatever stage you're in, inhabiting it to the fullest. Okay. We're not here to skip stages. We're here to make sure we're an integrated whole person. This is the stage alongside cleaning up, which enables us to really mellow out our blind spots. Okay. Cleaning up in terms of if those blind spots are insecurity fueled. Growing up is if we're hollowing out those blind spots when they're maturity driven. Okay. It also helps us be more accepting, less judgmental, building resources and having access to higher perspectives. Basically, this is any kind of vertical development. Vertical development, for those who don't know or just getting into it or just being introduced to it now, is the perspective that we're able to take, right? So an example of this is moving from a belief-based system to a thinking-based system. Moving from a belief-based, clergy-based theocracy to a meritocracy-based view of government, for example. That's like a difference in values. If you're not fully clear on that, leave a comment below and ask any questions, because this kind of deserves a video in and of itself. If you do the right cleaning up practice, your consciousness naturally grows up in maturity anyway. And then there's the showing up practice. Now, there's a Zen master out there called Doshin Roshi, who's a bit of a gangster, and he calls this, excuse my French, a fucking up practice. And I quite like that, actually, because a showing up practice is where we realize that we're good in here, we're watching the videos, and we're actually feeling better. We're like clearing up insecurities, we're using the hypnotic loop, we're seeing how many introductions we have, all that kind of stuff. But we actually have to show up in the world, embrace the chaos, embrace the messiness, the experience of life, the fullness of life. We have to be prepared to go out there and test all of this stuff, get our ass handed back to us with a smile and go after it. Heart-led, compassion-led, right? We need to realize that we're actually a human in this world, which I think a lot of channels forget. And it's not just about having an intellectual model, but we have to go and test that and stress test that. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. That's kind of how I view the showing up practice. So it's going out and being active in the world, participating, failing, succeeding, embracing the chaos, and being a human. This is massively overlooked. This is where all of your growth potential comes from. It's actually getting down into the weeds, practicing this, doing sessions on yourself, all that kind of good stuff. That's the end of the Inner Work playlist. I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm very humbled. I'm super honored that you chose to be a part of this community. If you're not already a part of this community, just subscribe. Go ahead and download my free program. If this kind of stuff is something that's really interesting to you, I promise it will make a massive impact for you. And I'll see you on the next one.